Okay, the song what me and Sister Esther are gonna sing has to do with we both work a lot of time at Doofenaita Coop, and they had neighbors, Paita Balmons. We have some of our family has been married into that family, but anyways, we heard them often singing, and that was to the Alconair style.
Oakney melody, yeah.
Oakney melody, and we are singing it. It's not necessarily it will sound nearly as good as then when they were singing it, but we learned one song to sing. We should also, like, yo, but I guess we probably didn't know how to. Should we?
In January, actually. In January it was 50 years. So we have their witness with us. I can testify for them, but they can say whatever they want to say, that they are happily married after 50 years. That's beautiful. We'll give them some time.
I want to testify. Maybe people wonder how it's possible 50 years together. And we are more happy now than the first week. And I can tell you the solution. Because those years in the beginning when we were married, when there was a wedding, I thought, okay, the wife should be this, she should be that, be that. Okay, I want to be a better wife because I was not a good wife. So, but before I was home, I failed again. I had failed already. And on and on. Eventually, I learned I cannot make it. The only way I can make it is if the Lord is living that life in me. And when we were 30 years married, the children, like when we first were married, we had no honeymoon, right? But then when I was 30 years married, then the children bought us a hotel and want us to go for a honeymoon. And I said, that's my best day in my life. Because we took the Bible with us, we took the Word of God with us, and we had time to read, we had time to share, and we had a very happy honeymoon.
I also can testify that our marriage has been growing sweeter and sweeter. And so So, why was it that how can marriage grow sweeter and sweeter? It's because God declared in Paul, he wanted to speak of the two greatest mysteries. Then he uses a couple as an example. And I always had a desire to be that kind of couple, even though we were not in any way perfect. But Paul declared the mystery is great. I speak. First you spoke a long message concerning couple, how they live, how they were. And the mystery is great. I speak concerning Christ and the church. So we all know the final conclusion of the church will be one building, the New Jerusalem. Then we will all be built up into one bride, into one wife. Now, also one more burden lately, especially concerning the gospel, like our dear son Corny shared. The question is, do we speak the full gospel? John the Baptist declared, repent for what? For the kingdom. And the Lord declared, if I cast out demons by the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of God is here. So we have a king, and it's our dear Lord Jesus Christ. We want to grow as more years the Lord gives us, more into that kingdom.
And what I really enjoy is that in the morning we call on the Lord together before we speak to each other. In the evening we take the Bible and read it, if possible, a chapter together, and then pray for the family and for whatever is important to us. That keeps us together. The human life runs out, but the Lord's life is forever.
Oh, ik weet niet zo graag wat ik zal zeggen, maar ik weet dat mijn broer eben in het huis, dan weer wie nog bed, wie al verder nog niet bekeerd. En somehow, dus de Charles predigt kwam, wat de predigt brengen deed dat demig draaien dat je Charles hier bij je, dat zal een bijspel zijn van de Charles in hemel. En daar kreeg ik really een verlangen, ik wil voor de Charles wil ik rijdt worden en ik leef hier niet lang daarop dat mensen ik weer een beetje rijden en de haar is zeer gnädig geweest. We hebben een sweet marriage. It's very sweet to have my husband on my side still, because he had a heart attack. Well, it's not because that, but I appreciate it much more because he had a heart attack almost 1.5 years ago, and he was almost gone. And I'm so happy that we can still be together.
Ik wil ook een dank uitspreken voor al die gebeden wat voor ons gebed zijn worden in ons leven. En dat een gedanke wat ik dan uitbrengen wat ik had een tijd lang verder vielleicht bekeren deed, dan denk ik me zo in de wereld, wenn we zo lang nooit meer bevrieden kunnen. En dat heeft hij. Die zijn dan die 50 jaar voorbij, die zijn zum Deel kort geweest. En dan denkt hij terug, wat heb ik gedaan? Maar ik heb een zeer fijne boodschap van dat wordt uitbreiden en ik zie niet zo goed begoofd in reden. Je hebt mijn zoon aan de nächste week wat reden als het vielleicht dam heeft. Maar ik heb verlangen met mijn wandel dat wordt wijzen wat ik geloof ik hem wat ha. En als ik in de bekering weer, om aangereicht deed, dan kom je einfach. Ik denk me zeer diep en we zijn wel echt dem top te zingen. Dem habe ich auf Deutsch, auf Hochdeutsch, als nicht in aller Sprachen, waar het niet te verstaan zijn, aber dann wäre het dan nog, kan het wieder sagen, weil wir top einfach zingen. Waar ik mijn vreugde wijn. Het is nummer 62 im grote gezangboek, de 5e vers. Dat redt hiervan wat de haar dat je kast af ans los te chepen. Me los te chepen. Herre, lass dein bitter Leiden mich reizen vier und vier, mit allem Ernst zu meiden, diesendliche Begier, dass mir's nie komme aus dem Sinn, wie viel es dich gekostet, dass ich erlöset bin. En dat weet dan dat geld wordt niet geteurig is. Hier hebben we nu wedstrijd van geld gereed. We kunnen veel dingen doen met geld, maar ons te erlezen dat heeft dat bloot gebruikt. En ik dank daarvoor dat je ons hier zo aangenomen hebt. Mocht daar in alle zijn.
Dan nog een met een joke opname. Als ik me eerlijk te bevrieden met mijn vroegere zuster, dan zal ik echt niet doorgaan wie Eebdeed. Eebdeed heeft doorgaan de Achtdeed. We hebben ons eier verleefd als even Lisbeth hadden.
Nou wou dat nu de beloten wat Emma het je was, dus het is bijna wit van je was. Okay, next we'll give Marianne an opportunity. She wants to sing a song.
Thank you. Hi, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Very thankful to be here from Canada with my brothers Ben and Pete. And many of you I haven't met before, or I haven't seen since I was about 5 or 6 years old, which was the last time I was here. And I still feel very much like we are family, you know, as much as my own siblings are my family. And I just want you to know that from my heart, whether we know each other, my heart knows you, because I have always loved you. And so my dad, I remember the first time he met some of the spouses that we married, or even just when we were dating before we married, he would always say to and my dad was John D. Loewen, he would always say to them, I love you because they love you. My son loves you, so I love you. My daughter loves you, so I love you. There were some of them he shouldn't have loved. And so he was just willing to give everybody a chance. And I love him for his open acceptance of everybody. And I think he passed that down to us. You know, I think that we really do try to be loving to people. And as a family, that's just something we aspire to do, is be loving and accepting. And so the one thing I want to do before I sing is I just want to say this one scripture, that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through Jesus. God. That's right, that's through God. So listen to this song, think about that, and then maybe I'll share just one little thought. The song, I understand that it may go out, so I might be singing without the music, and I don't know it fully well, so forgive me if I'm a little nervous. I'm gonna work it. Try to stop your love, and you would wage a war. Try to take the very thing you gave your life for, and you would come running, you tear down every wall, all the while shouting, my love, you're worth it all. God, you pursue me with power and glory, unstoppable love that never ends. You're unrelenting with passion
song of hope, a melody resounding in the deep of my soul. And you have come running, you tore down every wall, all the while shouting, my love, you're worth it all. God, you pursue me with power and glory, unstoppable love that never ends. You're unrelenting with passion and mercy, unstoppable love that never ends. Oh, no sin, no shame, no past, no pain can separate me from your love. No height, no depth, no fear, no death can separate me from your love. No sin, no shame, no past, no pain can separate me from your love. No height, no depth, no fear, no death can separate me from your love. God, you pursue me with power and glory, unstoppable love that never ends. You're unrelenting with passion and mercy, unstoppable love that never ends. You love me. Yes, yes, Jesus loves me.
Amen. So thank you for listening to that song, and I hope that it touched your hearts. I felt so nervous singing in front of family. It just is so different, and I just I want to make a good impression. I want you to love me, but you know what? Honestly, I really just gave that song to Jesus, and even though I was nervous and shaking, and my voice is a little bit lacking because I was so sick before I came here. I just totally thank God that I made it, because I was this close to canceling before coming. I was pretty sick. But I want to tell you a little quick moment about something that God did for me that was a picture of his unstoppable love. And the reason that it's so special for me to share it with you here is because it is a picture of my dad. I had really asked God for a revelation of his love. And I wanted to know what it was to know his love, because sometimes we feel that we don't deserve it, and that we are too bad for it. And yet he has this unstoppable, unrelenting love for us. And I wanted that. I wanted that picture. I wanted to be able to go past my pain. I wanted to truly, with this song, what it says is have no shame. And I had so much shame, and I had so much pain. And I'm daily breaking free from the pain and the shame of my past, even if my past was 5 minutes ago. And I'm not kidding, because it's a daily, sometimes minute by minute, sometimes breath by breath, to just be able to embrace the love of God and just make that personal in my own story. And so I asked him to show me. And I closed my eyes, fully expecting he would show me in a picture. And you guys, I saw my dad. But I didn't just see John D. Loewen as you have ever seen him. You have never seen him like this. He was brilliant. He was smiling as big a smile as I have ever seen him smile, and he had his arms out. And I just felt like I wanted to run into those arms. And he was so young looking, and he was so healthy looking, and he was tanned, and his bright blue eyes, and his probably the best you've ever seen him times 10. That was my dad in the picture of God's love for me. And I thought, wow, that's amazing that you would use my dad to show me that you love me, because when I was young, I felt abandoned by my dad because him and my mom separated in their relationship. But that's not who my dad is. My dad is in his beautiful true form in eternity right now in the Father's house. And what he looks like there and how he loves there is perfectly. He may have loved imperfectly here on the earth, but there is no more imperfection. And who he always was, even in his body on this earth, was righteous. As soon as he knew Jesus, he was righteous. And so God gave me the picture of my dad as a righteous saint, opening his arms, of showing me the greatest love. And I loved my dad a lot. And I just want to thank you for this time and listening to me. God bless you.
My brother John. He always know that he had a life up and down. But at the end, he was just crying and crying because of the dream he had. Then I asked my dear sister Nita, who's not anymore with us, can we this time, just everything he says, bring it to the Lord as it is? So he cried again, back and forth, back and forth. Then I asked him, can we bring this to the Lord as it is? And we used the same words he used 3 times. And then at the end, he was hungry for spiritual food. Then finally he declares to someone else, I cannot speak only about rice and beans anymore. I have to speak the word of God. So it was so sweet to me that he had this new, fresh, living hunger for God's word.
Hey, ik leef onkel Eblix rijden met harmonica spelen, muziek spelen.
As you know, I am not like everybody else. All my life, at least my grown-up life, I have done things that others wouldn't do. It's in my farming and my bushwork, and yeah, it's good. Now, it will be a ranchero. It's about the story of Pancho Villa, who led the big revolution in Chihuahua, Mexico. It was a couple of years before the old colony moved there. And this is just a song that has been made later after his death. He was shot. The song is called a los Torres de Chihuahua or Siete Leguas. And I'll also talk about something else that nobody talked about yet here. We Loewens, we are many generations, the oldest son of the Loewens was named Isaac. And so I will cover about a couple of hundred years in a few minutes now. And then always the first son was an Isaac. And then my Uncle Isaac, that was 8 generations. Uncle Isaac said he will stop that. He will not do it. And so his oldest son was a Ben. It would be about 12 now if it had been going on. So it stopped at 8. But he felt a bit guilty. And he wanted, my parents had a son about every year. And he wanted my parents to have an Isaac. En papa was daar een truitje genoeg te wat doen. Hij would het fijn naar je doen hebben. Mama zei, van Isaac leeft niet, maar Isaac gaat dan wel ook niet. Zo daarom heet Aaron niet Isaac. Oké, dat is het einde van, dankzij.
I just wanted to say just a couple of things here is today's sharing, we will give the cousins opportunity to say something. We don't have a specific time how long this is supposed to be, but if nobody has anything to say, that will be the end. So, but there's no threat. It's totally fine. There's nobody needs to share anything that doesn't want to share it. It's all open. So we'll just give it some time, and hopefully, I know there is some cousins that want to share. I know Ben and Pete want to share, and some of the Loewen's sisters want to share. So we will give that some opportunity. That doesn't mean that the uncle and aunts can't share. We might have to make it just a little shorter and sweet.
Yes, I agree. I just want to call out a few different words, and you guys will, if you have any memories of this, you will have an immediate thought come to mind. So I would appreciate if you would speak that out, what comes to your mind. I'm just going to name a few. First one would be swing set. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, steiler shackle, groter cotton boom. Yeah, that's right on.
What color was it?
Green. Kind of a light green, right? Yeah, more of a bluish green maybe. How about upstairs? Those fall mat bilda from Friendship. Okay, and shop, I don't know, shoefload, mat papa. Okay, anybody else? A chest. Mm-hmm. All right, did you guys hear that? Yeah. Uncle Tony, if we were getting too loud, Uncle Tony would come and tell us a good story. Yeah, as you can see in the picture, you mean that big window? Yeah. Oh.
Windows in the middle were made of boards that you could set to the side. So I picked them up, set them to the side. In the morning I noticed I had set one of them on about a 4 or 6 inch long scorpion.
Okay, here's another one. How is this called in German? Aufschmonter? It's a cream separator, but what's the German term? Aufschmonter? Ja, unter de trappen, de beentrappen. All right, Liz enjoyed turning that. She liked to hear the sound that that little cream separator made.
I have done that a lot too.
Yeah, Peter did it a lot. We were what? Okay, she said she doesn't have any memories of ever being scolded to play with that.
Well, if we were bad, we would have to take some of that cream that was separated from the top and put it in a jar and back and forth on your lap until it became butter.
Make some butter, huh? That's great. See, I didn't have any specific memories of that, but I knew that under those stairs there was some kind of milk station or something. That's all I remembered, so this is good to hear.
I would always put a piece of paper in there, like big and turn it, and make a big there.
Oh, Uncle Alvin would put a piece of paper in there and it would make a louder flaring sound. Wow, it was used for paper as well as cream. So there's a lot of memories. You just name one word and these memories pop up. How about kerosene, the smell of kerosene? Okay, had to, kerosene lamp, yeah. Tante Esther said, what's the English term for bay? If you had stepped on a nail, poked yourself or something, you had to soak your foot in kerosene.
A rusty nail.
Rusty nail, yeah. Okay, it killed the bacteria that would cause lockjaw. What is the word? Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Tetanus.
I always went every evening around the house with kerosene because the army ants want to shoot the front of the house every night.
Wow.
And their family had one path without grass around the house. They had to shoot 2 hours.
Okay, Uncle Alvin used to put some kerosene, did you say every night? Every night around the house so that the army ants wouldn't come into the house at night. And eventually, I guess he killed the grass around the house like that.
My daughter Carol was maybe 4 years old. She would better remember what age she was. But she absolutely refused to have a bath in the shower stall. But we may have spanked her, but she did get a bath there. And then when we went home, she said, and there was a kerosene lamp on a shelf in the bath in the shower area. She said, "Die Leute hatten Feuer in ihren Lampen." Those people had fire in their lamps.
Okay, how about we have some of you come up and share some memories. Who's first?
And when Grandpa made fire in the fire stove, he put a lot of kerosene on that, and that just flared through the trauma.
Yeah, there was. I had actually hoped to say something about this too. What about TCP? TCP. Okay, but Grandpa had a very special nail on one of his thumbs, was it? Or was it his pointer finger? Do you remember that? It was just a sharp point. And what I remember is, didn't he dip that finger in TCP all the time? That's the memory I have, stepping through the door, the front door, into their house. That's what I would smell, and he'd be sitting there holding that finger into a bottle of TCP. We had actually talked about at one meeting to bring a little bit of TCP here and have you guys smell it and see what memories would come back. Okay, so Tontanetti says that Uncle Tony did not allow that ever in their house because he never wanted to smell that again. Does it smell a little bit like apple cider vinegar? No? I would actually like to smell it. I think I know, but it's been so many years I don't really know. Who has some? You? You have some? Do you stick your pointer finger? Oh, for dogs. Okay. All right, who wants to come and share a memory? All right, Ben.
Hello. Hello from Canada. I am the son of the black sheep. Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible thing to say. I think it's pretty safe to say that my dad was a black sheep. He was number 3, I'm number 3. I have a little bit of wild blood in me yet too. I had with my kids at Christmas time this year, I said, I'm trying hard to turn the ship around. I think I've started it, but I said, you kids are going to have to finish turning the ship around. And you know, on the subject of black sheep, like in the news, what do they say? They say it's bad. They talk about bad news. So when you listen to the news, they're going to tell you bad news because bad news is more interesting than good news. And so it's pretty easy for us to remember the bad things about somebody because they kind of stand out and they're more newsworthy. And I spent a lot of time being Belize at my dad, but you know, as years go by, I start remembering so many good things. And in so many ways, he was such a good dad. I have a couple of stories, one that my dad told me and one that somebody else told me. When my dad was around 16 years old, I guess Grandpa Peter P. Loewen thought he needed to be disciplined. But my dad thought he was 16 years old, he doesn't need to be disciplined by nobody. And so they started wrestling. And this is a story that my dad told me, so if you guys remember, I'm not sure if the older brothers remember or what, but the way my dad told me, they had a real wrestling match on the kitchen floor maybe or in the house, and my grandpa kind of had him pinned down and he was calling out to Grandma, hold her strong, because he was going to tie him up and then he could whip him. But he hadn't been able to keep him down, so now he's 16 years old and Grandpa has not been able to out-wrestle my dad. So the way I heard the story that Dad had to move out of the house, and I'm not sure if that you remember or not, but I know either he had to move out or he was going to go out for a while because I had one of his neighbors tell me that in Mexico that they had passed my dad on the road, and my dad was supposed to go live with one of the heads of the community. I guess that guy was supposed to discipline my dad now, you know, or at least try and out him a little bit. And so this guy had passed my dad, he was walking, he was going to that guy's house that he had to go to now. And my dad had said, whatever the guy's name was, let's call him Isaac Knelsa, I have no idea what his name was. And the day Isaac Knelsa boy, what lira? You know, he was going to teach that guy. That guy was supposed to teach my dad something, he was going to teach him something. So he was a bit of a rebel. I know what that's like. And in school, my teachers always told me, Ben, you have tremendous potential. You know, and they would take me into the furnace room and they'd want to spank me, but they always liked me. You know, they couldn't quite bring themselves to spank me. When I got married, I was the first one in my family to get married. I got married when I was barely 18, and the rest of my family all got. I think the next youngest one got married at 29. So I got married at 18, and the 7 of us, and of the other 7, I'm not sure when you got married, Marianne. 21. You were 21. So, but the boys. I think the next youngest got married at 28 or 29, and between 28, 29, and 35 somewhere, the rest of them got married. So anyway, so I was the first to get married, and there were 6 boys. So when I got married, my dad said a speech at my wedding. And he said, he went up there, and the first thing he said at his speech was, okay, now I have 1 son married and 5 still living. Another thing I was going to tell you about my dad is my dad, like Uncle Alvin was saying, was up and down. You know, so he was a very up and down guy. And but one thing he did, he always made sure we went to church and Sunday school. And so all our lives, no matter, and you know, I think my dad must have thought, like he's never told me this, nobody else has ever told me this, but I think he must have thought that no matter where he was at, no matter what he was doing, he was going to give us kids every chance to get it right. And so we went to church every Sunday, and we went not only to church, but to school. And I'm 16 years old. I'm planning to run away from home that day, which I did. And I was mourning, and I wasn't going to go to church that day. Instead, I was going to go pick up my girlfriend, and we were going to run away. And so my dad comes to my bedroom, and I said, I'm sick. I'm not going to church today. I feel sick. He says, no, Ben, come on, let's go. We're going to church. And I was 16 years old. I was a pretty cool, tough guy. I mean, I was 16 years old. I could do what I want. I had my driver's license, you know. And he said, no, Ben, come, let's go to church. I said, I'm sick. He said, Ben, come on, let's just go. And then I said, okay, Dad, I'm not going to church today. So the sick thing didn't work, so I was going to tell him, no, I'm 16 years old. I don't need to. I can go to church when I feel like going to church. And he said, no, Ben, let's go. And I said, Dad, I don't want to go to church. I fought with him for about 10 minutes, and I realized he wasn't going in. But you know what? It was kind of interesting. It was very interesting. Whoops. Because he didn't come wrestle me. He didn't force me. He didn't scream at me. He just gently coaxed me, but there was no giving in. Like there was no such thing. I'm 16 years old. I'm 6 feet tall. Like, but there was no such thing that I wouldn't be going to church. I was going to church, and there was no choice. I was living in his house, and I was going to church. And so I went to church. And then I left halfway through, and I ran away from home. And then I was gone for 5 weeks. Nobody knew where I was. And that's another story. But and then I was going to say one thing about my mom yet. Oh, no, I want to say one more story about my dad. My dad was an incredible salesman. And some of you know that, some of you don't. But he was an incredible salesman. I mean, it was just remarkable. And he was selling tires, and they had, Manitoba was divided into 4 territories. And so there was 4 salesmen, 4 territories, and my dad had 1 territory, and he was outselling everybody else by far. So the other salesman complained that my dad had the easiest territory. So then the owner juggled the territories around, and then gave my dad the weakest territory, the one where the sales were the weakest, and then he just, I guess there was all sorts of opportunities that had been missed, and he just sold like crazy. So then the other salesman complained that my dad was making way more money than they were. So then that owner cut my dad's commission, so that at the rate he was selling, he would only make as much money as those other guys. And I always wanted to go tell that guy to write me a $10,000 check, because he became very wealthy, the guy who owned that tire store, and I figured he had cheated my dad, so I was going to go up to him. I always wanted to go up to him. He used to come for breakfast at the restaurant where I worked, and I always was going to ask him, you need to write me a check for $10,000 for ripping off my dad, but I never had the guts, and then he died, and so that was that. I had to make my own $10,000. And another thing I'll quickly say, I have a car dealership now. We have 17 people working for us, and you know, I often wish I could show my dad, look what I did. Anyway, so sometimes I tell my uncles and aunts, you know, what I've done, you know, because I feel like, you know, my dad was, he was so good at getting things started, but he never stuck with it. And you know, he had so much potential, and I just wanted to, I'd like to go to show him, look what I did.
He's seeing you?
And then I was just going to say quickly about my mom. My mom was an incredible lover. She loved people. You know, she had such a warm, loving way about her, and she was my best friend.
This opportunity for the nephews and nieces, I quickly grabbed my chance. I've been thinking a little bit in regards to my uncle and aunts, what kind of special memories I have, and I just quickly will mention 3. Something very specific that I learned from individuals. One of them was from Uncle Abe. I was learning to drive, and my mom made a good attempt at teaching me to drive, but I ended up in the ditch. And then after that, she didn't want to be my teacher anymore. But then one time at Abe Loewen's place, oh yeah, my dad we had a standard 3-speed truck at that time. So that's the one I'm supposed to drive. And installing this truck. So Uncle Abe comes to the truck and he explains it very well. How do you start driving with a standard? After that, I knew how to do it. Thank you, Uncle Abe. He was a very good teacher. And then one other one, that I guess my mom was a very, very busy worker, and then sometimes I guess she didn't quite maybe had the patience maybe to teach somebody that's guiding somebody through the frustrating experience of learning something, and the other one was learning to sew. And that was very frustrating business. So that one, and Esther, I was spending some time at her house, so she would be now my teacher. And so she guided me through some of those things. So uncles and aunts, they sometimes really have been valuable to us in what they have been teaching us. And one quick one from Uncle Aaron. Last time that he was here in Belize, I had a special appointment with him because I was planning to go to Europe. And then I always felt like I was always influenced by all his stories and pictures. His Uncle Eric and Uncle Aaron and his son Eric as well. So I had a special time getting all my Europe information from him, and then since then I've been traveling there. Thank you, Uncle Finance.
Okay, help my dad share something yet. I noticed that he hadn't been up here, and I know it's a bit harder for him. And I asked him why, and so with asking some more questions, I think we have found one reason that it's a little bit, he said he's not as good at it as the others are. So we're going to talk about the reason that I found with asking questions and putting some puzzles together. We've already up each them. So you say to me that you know alle bereida har nog något Canada nog show you going. Vad är bereida gänga alla nog Canada nog show?
Vi fire bereida vad alla vill säga vad alla Canada nog show ju. Aber dann über dem, wo wir in Mexiko traten, und aktuell real on der Show gehen, aber Papa hält sehr keine Tuschule von der Show, und dann die Leute hier, wie wir tragen alle und dann in Mexiko, dann wir nicht mehr Englisch lernen, wir will nicht Nötigkeit nach Englisch lernen. Das ist mein Lot, aber ich sehr schuld, war es eigentlich nachher können in Kanada an der Show gehen. But we are so we are.
So what we damals Mexico tragen?
We are 7 years.
And what you in Mexico on from the show to go?
Ja, from Mexico on the show to go.
And what we da ungefähr?
Na, von 7 Jahren.
Okay. So wait, I think so.
Nou, ik weet niet wat ik zal zeggen, maar Hans, ik vind me zeer dankbaar voor mijn leven en ik heb een schijnend leven en ik vind me helemaal zeggen, ik zie bloß niet dankbaar voor al dat wat families doen en wat andere familien doen hebben. Zoveel leven is ik had durven nemen. Ik vind me einfach sehr dankbar dafür. Von all die Schwestern und Freunde.
Tony Belize zei groot dat je had maar sweet no shall go dat we zei je moest dat we niet te gaan.
Dat wat?
Dat we niet no shall te gaan.
Ja, wie deed al dit? Geen deed allemaal no shall voor dat we te gaan. Paar mil.
Okay.
Jo, ik ga zo'n schijnend leven gehad. Ik heb verschillende studeren, maar ik vind dat ik een zeer schijnend leven gehad. Dat zou weten niet. Ga nu nog. Dat dankbaar zijn. Dat wil ik iedereen wensen. Dat is wat een moeder hulde deed.
Okay. Thank you.
Nou, als ik zei dat vandaag waar je alleen zijn, ik had really nog niet geshared wat ik had wilt share. Ik weet dat we gaan met weinig van mijn mama hier. Mijn mama weer eines ik van die onal zeer dat mama weer zeer drak en dat bij mijn mama ook. Ze had een grote familie en dat weer zeer drak. En zo zij hadden zeer veel gehad voor andere mensen. Zij is veel te fout belast van ene kant community bij de andere kant. Je gewoon een half mensen je strik en half den je helpen daarmee. En na een ding, she was a midwife, and I was always very sad or unhappy in the morning when I got up that when mom was not around. And that happened many days because she was a midwife. She helped a lot of young couples with getting their babies. And another thing, she to making good meals, that was very important to her. And like little children always, they like to move. That's a very exciting thing for them to move. So then I remember one time I asked my mom, when are we going to move to another place again? And she said, and then she said something that really broke my heart. She said, the next place where I'm moving to would be 6 feet and 2 feet, by 6 by 2. And that mean her coffin. And I was that really broke my heart because I was always so scared that my mom would die. And when she took a nap, she usually was lying on her back and had her hands like this, like a dead person. And I often check when we could always see when we went to the outhouse through the windows where she was sleeping in bed, and I often check, is she still breathing? And that is, my mom had such a love for other people. And then from my dad, my childhood time, then the little children, they didn't go to church, very seldom. We took turns to stay home. And my dad was a very big reader. I don't know how many of you guys know Cherished, and also Mano Simon book, and also the Bible. And that was very important to him when we stayed home from church. Usually one of the adults had to stay home then too, right? Not all the time, but anyways, we always had to listen to a story, to a Bible story, or when he was reading the Bible, or especially the Cherished. That always, for me, I was scared when he was reading that, because those were such awful stories. And then also, my dad often went to Hingambaho to the cattle. That was a very important thing for him. And me and Tonda Astor, we usually took turns to go to Hingambaho. Me and her usually were driving the tractor, and Dad would be on the trailer. And that was sometimes a hard day, but we enjoyed it. And one time I drove with him Hingambaho, then there was a big mountain cow walking in front of us into the bush. That was very special. And anyways, and another thing from that, Brother Tony, he usually was by the crowd and had all the cattle together already, usually, when we came there. So that was a big help, what the dad was going there to see the cattle. And we were always very, like my dad, when we had big things, gatherings or something, a wedding or something big was coming up, he was very often not unhappy. I mean, he was very unhappy because he didn't like kron. But anyways, we were always try to please him. And one big thing to please him was to get the cattle home, especially when he went Hingambahu, and then that we would have our cattle in the corral when he would come home. And then this one day, I ran and got the cattle, and it took me, it was behind, Belize was there, and anyways, it took me quite a bit longer than I had anticipated, but anyways, then there was those gravel guys were passing by there, and I was kind of ashamed that I was there in the Vedhawk. Poor guys, I was always a little bit embarrassed. But anyways, and then when one tractor trailer went by with their load, I dipped myself quickly down, it wouldn't see me. And then right away there was 2-3 cows jump over the fence. And I thought, oh no, what's they gonna want to say now? But anyways, and then I realized, oh, that was Brother Tony. And I just ran and waved, and then he looked back. To him it had been such a mystery that all of a sudden cattle came over the fence. So then it was Uncle Tony. So then I was so happy, so thankful. So what he did, that was cattle that didn't know me. That was other Bienfries cattle, that was neighbors' cattle. And then Dad was had them out for a long time. He wanted them out because they made him trouble. So then Uncle Tony, because they jumped over, he quickly, their Bienfries Vedhawk was on the other side. So he quickly put them in that fence, and the story went from sad to better. But one very sad after, my mom had been so worried that I didn't come home. So she came there, and she went almost all the way to Ginny Creek. And then she had heard a kind of groaning noise. And she thought a bull I had been attacked by a bull. So she just ran back for help, and then had fell down a few times. And then when I came, with that Brother Tony back with the tractor and trailer. But I was quite, that Mom had to run that fast because she thought I was got attacked there by a bull. That was, I cried a lot for that, but she had to do that. But yeah, but anyways, and one time I know, is John here? John, anyways, one time there we had a Angus bull, and he was in Bienfries, and my dad was bad Friesen's and he wanted that bull home, back home. And then me and John tried to get that bull back. What we did, we put one fence down, one wire, and one wire up. So then he was from one side and I was the other side. That way we want to, so that he would go into my mom and dad's Vedhawk. But then that Angus bull, when he was very upgedek, what do you say, very stirred up, then he had his head way up. So because he had his head so way up, the fence was on top of him. That's why he didn't run in there. So that he came just straight to me, he just running, and I just jumped aside. He wasn't not after me. He was not a bad dangerous bull. But anyways, I just jumped aside. He just run. So that was a quite experience. And then quickly another thing, there was like Mano, John, and Peter. They all married a widow, right, with children. And I asked, when Peter Reimer died, that was Manolai's oldest son. At that funeral, I asked Lina, that was the life of that was Peter, Lina, Annie, John. Peter, Lina lives in Nova Scotia. She is life of and Peter was married to Lina, Isaac Elga Lina, and they live in Manitoba. And Annie and Levi, they live in the U.S., right? And John's here. I think he's present, right? John Reimer? Yeah, there he is. But anyways, I asked Lina, have you ever felt growing up that you were not the same as the other grandchildren? And she said no. There was nowhere. And I can never remember from my parents that there was a difference between those grandchildren. And the funny thing was, and then I asked now that no one will be here, I asked Berta if she had ever felt, and she said no, she never had felt that they were not as much accepted as the blood, right? But anyways, but there was 3 Johns: Manuel Levis John, John Levis John, and Peter Levis John. And you know what? Those Johns, 3 of them are in May, or only 2? Oh no, 2 of them in May, you're in June, right? July. So they're all the same year. They were all Johns. That was kind of interesting. And I grew up with that. We had lots of fun together. Okay.
Who of you remembers the Tom and Esther? Maybe the others did too, but I only remember them milking in the barn. And when we grandkids would go into the barn, we usually got some fresh, warm milk into our mouths, right? I was wondering how that would be now if we had a cow in here and we tried that today. If they'd still be able to aim quite well. I think they were pretty good. They had some practice. Okay, there were quite a number of you that were getting up. Don't be shy to kind of line up, because I think everybody's sharing. We're going to try to make it kind of quick and not too long. No, you're a Tante Margaret. You have your time. So, Marty, are you up next?
Ja, ik ga eigenlijk gewoon dat mijn wat mijn cousins zo hier willen hadden. Dat ik zo herkomen. Ja, een grote vrouw, die bij de vrouw van dat die. Eigenlijk het eerste wat ik begeleid te zeggen dat als op de ferie milk en markt weet samen van de oncontant weiter. Daar wil ik leiden met children dat trekt te arbeiden. Ja, dat inderdaad vandaag oppassen. Wat en als hij wat, dat gaat de eer wat ervan krijgen. Einig als, zij hebben mij niet nur gevraagd nog voor je een tour nemen. Ik wil dat ook wel gedaan hebben. Maar als we dan zijn, was, trekken we ons naar Mexico voor en zijn wat ze daar beleefd hadden. Wie eigenlijk mijn vrouw, we hebben veel gelegenheid gehad, dat zijn meestal alle aankontanten bij ons in Mexico was, en kwamen kan niet. Grote indruk die heeft door, veel stories verteld. En al veel kunt map beleven. Hoe ze daar dat aanhalige geshared hebben, wat ze hebben. Wat en toe have wij doen. Veel van die weiden wat ze hebben gehad, wat de aankontanten hebben uitgebracht, dat is de armoede. Dat ze zwarte leven hebben gehad. En mij zei dat veel meer goed, dat ze door zijn zo schön, dat zijn bijgetrokken. Dat we wonen op een fijne steden, waar ook de Peverweg bij ons voorbij. En door is zeer veel water in de eer. Ik weet niet waarvan gerade stranden we die, want die alle worden in een steden aangepompt worden. Er wordt veel land bewässert en 10 zal je born wat er met schwung schelen deed. Zo veel vormen pompen, zoveel water nop op erde staat en 1 jaar is de korn hoog is. Tot een arm krijgen. En we hadden er tijd veel gelegenheid gehad. Cousins en onkels met naar de boeien te nemen. Die had nu zeer schijn. En die reed bijna voor de checken wat onkel Arne van aanvang gepland had. Dat was allemaal een plezier. Met cousins zo de hand te voeren. En onkel Peter wie ganz kort staat bij ons. En hij deed mapdelen van wel wel aan dat je gewoon had dat grootvaars hadden moesten geldman moesten halen. Het wordt aan dat we een zware ding voor aan je was. Dat weet ik nog niet meer nergens. Hij had kunnen uitschaffen en zelfs hij had kunnen stapelarbeit doen. Dat zijn verschillende dingen wat hij zijn teruggegaan. En eigenlijk wat ik niet voor granted nemen dat als krijg naar die tijd waar ik wil groospapa allemaal die halt aan vertypen. Was halt eerste. Die tijd waar ik die draad vandaan naar aan. We zijn de shareholder. En dat zei ik allemaal waar dat als wijn. De vervader die had zich aangestrengt dat een draaien hadden. Zo die kant de walen wat je aansluiten. Dat er niet zelfs werd dat ook kan mitnutzen. Dus de regelen door verloren is. Wer van je wel een kwam kan niet traken. Die kan er dan morgen een kwam mooi te schrijven. En had ook raak aan. Dat raak dat had groospapa door je hulp. En een ander ding waar ik lately veel aan groospapa gedacht heb. Dat levensgroospapa, ik wil me gleichen. Maar moet gleichen met aantal gleichen doel te zetten en uitrusting te hebben. Wie is groospapa veel weet geworden. We zijn nog slecht het laatste halve jaar. En ik kan denken aan die betere ervaringen wat hij in het joint gemaakt heeft. Wat aan zwaar was. En op waar ik niet veel nog hang op hem en groospapa de eerveld te geven dat hij door derg zoveel is hier van alle zaten. En die allemaal terug in Heiland dienen. Dat ik tikte vandaan en het is een grote benefit aan de groospapa die tijd waar hij een zeer zware lol weer. Die tijd is 3 dagen gegaan en heeft ons alle op een voorbeeld te laten. Dank je.
Het eerste wat ik wil zeggen is weer Ben Loewen. Dat is goed van mij. Hij zei weer dat zijn dad is een groot salesman. Die was mijn dad zei allemaal dat Uncle John heeft rein alles te oren. Het is rein niks voor mij gebleven. Ik kan niks van dat. So, hij zei weer dus Uncle John had alles te hulp krijgen en niks te blijven van. En ik kan hem niet goed zijn. Eerst hij zei ik wil het zo dat ik zo aanbieden. Ik wil aanbetalen aan leidverzingen wat ik krijg van Little Black Sheep is. Wat ook dan aanbod moet en dat wordt niet heel groot. En wat Martin met mij van groospapa, ik deed eerst een week aan een 30 miljoen pound met remark weer dat groospapa man that he was really struggling at times. And but one thing that I have really appreciated when I grew up, and even if I would hear something from Grandpa, that I knew that this is something is not okay. Because my dad was usually the peacemaker, so we children would sometimes be at the house when things were happening that were not the greatest. But somehow my parents had a special gift, and they would always explain it later in such a way that it never caused in my heart any disrespect toward my grandpa. They always would later bring it out that grandpa was sorry and that he had made it right, he had confessed it. And I just really appreciate that from my own parents, because I think that's, we often tend to want to be very, very protective over our children, our nieces and nephews, our school children, but in reality we can never protect them from all things that are difficult. We're trying to do something that's impossible, because we will all meet up with trials in our life, and so that's something that I really appreciate about my parents. I feel like they were very wise with this matter. That up to this day, and when I think about Grandpa, I don't have negative thoughts about him. I feel like he was a very good grandpa. I think that credit goes to my parents. And Grandpa, of course, he would very easily give us a little coin if we had helped him work, whatever it was. But he would give us a little gift, and that was always so special to get actually some money, because we didn't get that much money, and Grandpa was usually the one that would give us a little bit of money. And thinking about my own dad, he really enjoyed singing. I think there's a lot of the Loewens that really do enjoy singing, because my dad, he loved to be up somewhere on a hillside, and where the echo would just go down the valley. And I remember one time we were, I think it was Edward Penner's and Elvin Loewen's. I'm not quite sure who else, but I know Uncle Elvin was there, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe it was Klaus Penner's. And I know Uncle Edward was there. And so my dad said, okay, let's see how loud we can sing. Let's hear how many times we can hear our own echo. And they were standing there at the top of the hill and just singing, and I was like, wow. And I was always so impressed about that because we were usually quite loud as children, and our parents so often had to tell us, quiet down, be a little bit more quiet, be a little bit more quiet, be a little bit more quiet, the neighbors are going to hear you. And whenever we went to the ranch, they would allow us, they would say, now you can scream as loud as you wish. And we did. Some children, when they're allowed, they don't want it, but we did. We would if we would be out at the ranch, we would often have a competition to see who could be actually the loudest and who would have the best voice or sound, so that we would be able to hear at least 4 or 5 echoes. That's something that to us that was a lot of fun. But not, I think only Loewens. Maybe there's some other people that Loewens know what that means. A lot of people, they don't even know what it means if you want to be loud, but I do. And I carry that loudspeaker wherever I am. I actually would not even need this loudspeaker, because I could easily just yank out my voice and I would not even need this thing. That's what I was always used for wherever I would teach. And there were some other teachers that had this soft little voice, and they wanted to call their students from the other side of the yard, and they never could do it. They just tried and they couldn't do it. They would just come to me and say, Martha, we need your loudspeaker. I could holler anybody. And it was often not just a blessing, but often it was a blessing as well. And one other thing that I really appreciate about my dad, and I felt like my dad, he had a sense of righteous anger. Sometimes people talk about some of the Loewens have problems with getting angry, but there is such a thing as righteous anger yet, and that was one thing that once when I experienced something as a teenager that really hurt me and really was very difficult for me, the way somebody had treated me. When I realized that my dad was angry at this man, I felt it was a righteous anger, that he just let me know this is not right, what has happened. I was so relieved and I felt so cared for. Not that he would pity me, but I felt like he let me know that this is not right, what has happened. And it helped me to overcome way faster. So that was a blessing, and that's where we'll stop right now.
All right, we do appreciate all the memory sharing and so on, but we do have quite a few that still want to say something, so please, let's think about keeping it short to the...
Okay, what my sister Anna shared about Uncle Abe teaching her to drive just struck a memory in me. That truck, that 3-speed Ford pickup truck, my parents bought it brand new from Uncle John Loewen. It had only driven from Canada to Belize. And we paid $11,000 for it. Anyway, the other day, John Dwight, he said that Uncle John had driven from Canada to Belize in 3 days. And then later, Uncle Aaron said that he had picked up hitchhikers that would drive so he could sleep when they were driving. So I was just wondering the question, was that the trip when he came down with that trot that he did in 3 days? Just had a question there. Maybe someone could answer that, you know. He had some people along with him, some men along with him. Oh, it's a car? Okay, so it's not that truck. Okay, but I was just wondering about that.
I'm going to continue that thought a little bit. So I'm going to mix my Polish and my English together because, as we talked about earlier this morning, in fact, with Uncle Abe, that's my art Polish. Min Polish jest moja art. Så de var inte timmet bra, de var utrannade från åt, de var engelska. But Tom Margaret said that Grandma was a midwife. So I just wonder how many of the grandchildren that are here were helped, or their mothers were helped by Grandma when they were born. Because I think there were quite a few. I remember one time, in fact, that house exactly right there, we lived across the field from that house for a little while. And one day, we had to go to Grandma and Grandpa's house for a night. Oh, what was that all about? Okay, well, let's go to Grandma and Grandpa's house for a night. Next morning we came home, and there was a baby in the house. How'd that happen? We had no idea. We had no idea Mom was pregnant. Back then, women wouldn't expose their pregnancy like they do now. And it was just like, what? Grandma gave us a new baby. But I have memories about a lot of the uncles here, about a lot of the aunts here. They're mostly all good memories. Some of the memories that I have, I will cherish all of my memories as long as I live. The time that I spent with Uncle Abe, the last time I was here, I cherish that memory. I cherish the memories that I have with Uncle Aaron. I remember how Uncle Aaron has helped so many of the families that are in this room when we came to Canada. That's including our family. And how Uncle Aaron was always giving of his own time, and how he would take pictures and set everybody up just so nice. Tante Anne would make sure that everybody was standing just so, and everybody had to stand exactly where they were going, and then Uncle Aaron would take the picture. It was a wonderful thing. I wanted to say a lot more, but a lot of the stuff about memories that I make here, memories I'm going to have here, I cherish those memories. And it's something that you cannot buy that memory. You cannot pay for the memories that I will have from being here in Belize. 2 years ago when I was here, I had a ride with Uncle Tony on his horse. That was to reenact something that happened when I was a little boy. That's a memory I cherish. And the fact that I was still here when Uncle Tony was still alive is something that is very special to me. So, memories, choices that we make in life, you know, we all make choices in life. My dad made some choices that maybe some of us would question, but at the same time, we make choices, and at the end of the day, God loves us all. We don't earn our way into heaven. We get into heaven by the grace of God. And how we get there, we don't get to decide that. But the fact is, Jesus said, no man comes to the Father except through me. So all we need to do is believe. But we still have to do our part. But at the same time, we make that choice. It's a choice that we make. Some people think, well, when do I have to make that choice? Well, we don't know when's the right time. But the fact is, we need to make that choice. And so many of us in this room have already made that choice, and that's fantastic. Thank you all.
So I didn't get to attend any of the memorial services of the uncles and aunts that have passed. I just wanted to share one specific thing from each one that I remember and cherish. Uncle John first. The last thing, and probably the only thing I remember him ever saying, because I didn't really get to know him, was at Leo and Betty's house in St. Andrews in Manitoba. Some of us kids were playing in the backyard, and he just came out in his white bell bottoms and his Hawaiian shirt or something like that, and his afro. And he just said, "See you guys in heaven," and he walked away. That's the only thing I can really remember of him. So that was just, it was just small, but it was just a little seed of faith that I treasured. And then the other, I guess next would be Uncle Menno. I really appreciated Uncle Menno, and the last thing I remember about him was when he visited us in Manitoba, and he found out that I was really interested in J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings, famous author, and also C.S. Lewis. So he started talking to me about it, and his eyes were just twinkling because he was enjoying talking, kind of like it was part of him. He was just kind of a child inside, and he appreciated those stories. And then immediately after that, I pictured him as being Gandalf, because he had kind of pointy eyebrows and bright eyes. All he really needed was a wizard hat and a robe, and he would have been Gandalf to me. Many of you may not get that, but anyway. But then he actually wanted to talk more about C.S. Lewis, which I suspect maybe because C.S. Lewis was more overtly Christian and maybe more sanctified in his literature, so he wanted to talk more about him. I appreciate that. Anyway, just a gentle little nudge towards the Lord. So I always appreciate Uncle Menno for who he was in terms of his faith in Christ, and he still inspires me. And then Tonta Naita, both her and actually Uncle Tony, to me, were excellent caretakers and nurse or doctor. At Tonta Naita, I had an infection in my feet in Belize, having climbed on a mango tree, and my feet just got really itchy and painful. And so she tried all kinds of stuff. She bathed my feet in yogurt. I don't think that worked. She soaked them in Swedish bitter. That may have worked, or maybe the infection just ran its course. But either way, I really appreciated that care from her. And then Uncle Tony, I had a stomach ache, and I was sleeping over at their house for the night. It may have just been because I was homesick or I missed my parents, and he gave me all kinds of stuff to help my stomach calm down, and I just felt really taken care of by him. So those are just quick memories of those uncles and aunts that are no longer with us. And I do remember, especially from Uncle Abe, though, he taught me to drive when I was 11. I drove the car. It was a car. He just drove from one driveway to the other, and I thought, wow, that's great for an 11-year-old. But then he put me in an articulating loader, which is not the easiest thing to drive because you make a little turn and it really turns a lot. So I think eventually I had to take over the steering wheel, but he let an 11-year-old drive an articulating loader. That was a good memory.
I'm just quickly going to interrupt just a little bit. The plan is that the memory books with the picture frame will be given to the family after this reunion is over. So if you have not signed it and were intending to, you have half an hour. So you can go over there, sign it while you listen to the sharing if you want to, but after that, the time will be up.
Yeah, I just want to share a little something I don't really remember from Grandma and Grandpa, but I have a lot of fond memories from the uncles and aunts, and I just want to thank you all, because those are really valuable to me, and I will keep those with me forever. Randy, he was just mentioning with Uncle Menno, he was always very interested in Uncle Menno's, his smarts and his reading. I, on the other hand, was always interested about how strong Uncle Menno was. So this one little experience, this I believe was in 2005. Me and some of the cousins, we were having a competition in our basement with some weightlifting. So we were doing a leg press where you were seated and you lifted your leg up. We would load the weights one by one and see which of the cousins was the strongest with their legs. And Uncle Menno was just watching everything in the background. So once we had loaded all the weights on to this machine, and some of us were able to do it, I'm pretty sure I was one of them, Uncle Menno steps forward and he says, okay, now we'll leave the weights on and one of you go sit on top of that weight bar. And so he wanted to prove to all of us that he was the strongest. And if I remember correctly, he had someone sitting on top of it, and he pressed all the weights plus one of the cousins.
I just want to share a little story or a little memory of Grandpa. Actually, I'm from the clean jongens. And apparently, Chan the clean jongens ook wat zei hier. Die ouders weer de zaas jongens. En de oudste drie weer de grote jongens. En de jongste drie weer de clean jongens. And that stayed, sorry, my throat isn't working. That stayed that way for my entire life, so I think we're still clean youngs. Anyway, that's beside the point. When my family moved to Costa Rica, I was 5 years old, and we had a dog. His name was Fido. You ever heard of a dog named Fido? Yeah. It's a very good family dog, and John helped me with this story. I didn't know the full story, but apparently at the auction, the dog went up for auction. Can you believe that? And Grandpa put in a high bid right off the bat, and no one bid beyond that, so he got the dog. Anyway, years later when our family came back to Belize, he still had the dog, only his name had now changed from Fido to Buster, because Grandpa already had a Fido. So our dog had to change names. And I don't know how old our dog would have been, but probably a fairly old dog. And not only that, he completely changed this dog, the character, whatever you call, whatever an animal has, his way of doing things. This dog would actually try to attack us, the clean youngs, the little kids, because he didn't recognize us. So the older ones were okay with the dog, but for some reason, I think it was my age and younger, the dog would try to attack us and bite us. Anyway, I just realized what kind of a way he had with animals. Just a little story I wanted to share. Then just a few points, I jotted down. It's always easier when you have points. I feel really blessed to be here today, especially hearing from all the uncles and aunts. I feel there's a few that I've got to know that I never really knew before. And Uncle Peter, who just is getting up right now, is one of them. I've been trying to go sit beside him, spend some time, and I was really touched by what he shared here earlier. I've never heard such a sharing from him. Just being thankful. Actually, one of his sons-in-law, I believe it was, sat next to me at the table, and he was just talking about what kind of a pattern he was, how thankful, always trying to still help others. And he still lives alone in his house. Just incredible. So anyway, I just thought it was worthy of mentioning, just getting to know Uncle Peter. And I'd also like to say something about Uncle Tony. I don't know if you all remember. In general, when the family gets together, we get into, we do a lot of kind of joking about Grandpa. And, well, to some extent, maybe it's okay, but I think we need to be a little careful. And I'll tell you, Uncle Tony impressed us all in Manitoba when we were having this kind of laughter about the ice and so forth. All of a sudden, Uncle Tony, you cousins remember that? Uncle Tony came up to the front and he gave us a really stern word. He was a little upset with us. We're taking it too far. So he explained about the ice, and one thing I've come to realize, everything Grandpa did had a reason. I don't think he did anything foolishly. All these little things we laugh about, he had a legitimate reason to do that. And we just, I guess they were funny. And anyway, I just feel that we really need to respect Grandpa Loewen for what he was. Lastly, I'd like to share just a verse that's been kind of welling up in me this whole weekend, or this whole weekend. Maybe not the right application, since it talks about the body of Christ, which is a reality today. But I'll read a few verses, and I think this is really something that the Loewen family has, and we should strive to keep. And those members of the body which we considered to be less honorable, these we clothe with more abundant honor. And our uncomely members come to have more abundant comeliness. Then jump down a few verses. And whether one member suffers, all members suffer with it. Or one member is glorified, all members rejoice with it. So I just want to leave that verse with you.
Before I accepted Christ as my Lord, my younger brothers knew me as a brother that had a fiery temper. Often and sometimes for very small reasons, this young boy would get very, very angry. He would let it fly and what else? Det grulde sig lite mer på mig och det hade kommit vad här annars. Anyway, today I would like to share a little bit about that because in my time, I enjoyed being angry and I felt proud about it at that time. The more angrier I was, the more I felt like a man as a teenager. Of course, that changed when I accepted Jesus as my Lord. But I do think if we want to be quite honest, then we would have to admit that ons levensskap of ons something understandable we had that's a bit taken from. Sometimes we loans are a little bit like that roaring lion that is ready to tear with ons anger. Ik weet niet echt de uitzien wat een beetje. We have quite a few that have to deal with that roaring lion that is so easily angered. I would like to tell a story that was very, very deeply impressive for me. It was a time when I was hauling gravel with tractor and trailer under Uncle Abe's leadership. And one evening at the supper table, I was saying at the table, I love working with Uncle Abe because Uncle Abe never gets angry. And it was like I had ignited a bomb when I said that. My mom exploded when I said that. I asked Uncle Abe, I had permission to say it, so don't worry about that one. My mom literally exploded. Uncle Abe never gets angry? I don't know of an angrier person in the world. And I sat there, what's going on here? And then that impression sank in very deeply. Oh, that was his fallen nature. I don't know his fallen nature. He dealt with his fallen nature to the extent that an older person thinks he's the angriest person in the world, and I thought he couldn't even get angry. So I think we can learn a lesson from that. Thank you, Uncle Abe.
I didn't realize that so many had procrastinated to sign the memory book. So we will extend it as long maybe 5, 6, hopefully not beyond that.
Hi everyone, I really enjoyed all the sharing. I want to say something to Ben and Marianne. They're not here. Where are they? Where are they? Oh, you hear me? Okay, Ben is there too? Where's Ben? Okay, I just want to say that about a black sheep, about Uncle John. I want to say that I don't like that word. I love my Uncle John, and I think he's the only, don't feel offended I'm saying it, but he's the only uncle that has deeply impressed me about the gospel. I recall he came to visit us in Belize. We know he was an uncle that, was not all like all the rest. But he walks out of the door when he's on the way back to Canada, and he says, Mary and Liz, my sister Liz, were not being teenagers at that time. He turns around, and the last thing he says, and the big joy I will have if I hear that Elizabeth and Mary have received the Lord. And he had a special love for the gospel, like even though he wasn't, but I remember he left an impression on me that he loved the Lord Jesus. And I was thinking about that verse where Jesus said to Simon was kind of critical or like criticizing a woman who was washing his feet. And you know what Jesus said?
For this reason I say to you, her sins are many, are forgiven, because she loved much. But to whom little is forgiven, he loves little. And he said to her, your sins are forgiven. And I think about Uncle John when I read this verse. He really loved, because I think he felt like a failure, but that man was not ashamed to say the name of Jesus, you know? And I think we need to really look at him as such a one. And I just want to thank all my aunts and uncles, especially my aunts, that they had been there for me when my mom was sick. They were my mom. I could always go to my aunts, and they were the support to me when my mom was often sick, mentally ill, and I felt like you were my mom. And I thank you for that. And all my uncles, Uncle Aaron taught me to ski, cross-country skiing. I don't know, Uncle Abe was there, loving my bouquets. Anyway, and I don't know what I can say of everyone. I really appreciate everyone so much. And I want to say one very positive thing. We have not mentioned much of us cousins being together, but there is kind of feeling that the older cousins were very important. Well, that was because I grew up with you guys. And I want to tell something. There was something special about the first cousins and their parents. I don't know what it was. There might have been special but later, but I recall we could always run into the pasture. Do you remember this? Every time we were together, John, your house, where did we go? We ran to the back and the call paths, way to the back, to the furthest part of that property. We would hang out in that little bush. You know what? We were never improper. And we were never immoral, never. There was not ever such a thing among the cousins when we older kids were there. You remember, we had the most heavenly time. It's almost like we were living in, it says in the Bible about the millennial kingdom. It was. We were little kids enjoying, and our parents gave her full trust. Our parents never came up and said, oh, what did you do? There was never such a, we came to grandparents, I tell you, there was a line of kids to that. Who remembers that white stone in Grandpa's pasture? I still would like to go see that white stone. And we would take off, and it was a special stone, just out of the ground, jutting out. And who all remembers that white stone? Ben, yeah, everybody. And that was a special place for us. I look back, that was the millennial kingdom where there's no sin. Children are just playing together. And sorry to say, I do not know what happened. And I feel bad about it. I felt like not good about it. But there was a next generation of kids coming up. All of a sudden, we were forbidden. We could never go into the pasture again. And you know what? That's why the next set of cousins actually suffered persecution from us. Because when they came along, our freedom of playing in the pasture was totally over. And I'm sorry that we were not always good to those children. I mean, we not always wanted to be with them. I'm sorry about that. But you know, it was like we were robbed of our freedom as children. Our trust was gone. They didn't trust us anymore. So when the little kids grew up, then it was like no more the pasture. But I just wish it was still like this in these days, that kids could be trusted like that. But thank you for being my friends when I grew up. I had the most wonderful group of cousins. I mean, I tell you, look at you all. You know, I love you. You gave me a wonderful childhood. Grandma and Grandpa's house was a wonderful place for us in the pasture where the cows were walking and we stepped in the poop. I don't remember the poop, but it's a wonderful little path, and I still remember that path. You know, I can still see that path we ran on. And those were really awesome days. Thank you for that. Even Uncle Anne's that you did for us, we grew up. And I want to say another thing, very interesting. I was really happy for the one that mentioned that Grandma was a midwife. You know, like we had 4 older siblings that had a different dad, but that was, and I tell you, it was like that. Some menschen zeiden, oh, dat is nicht ihre richtige Schwester. Und sie zeiden, dat is nicht so. Dat zijn onze richtige Schwester. And they say that, you know, Hofgeschwister. And we said, no, they are our siblings. Anywhere, and these were the set of older kids. And then Mom still was having babies, you know. We were already smart enough, even that time it was very secret that if somebody had babies, Mom would never tell us that she was going to have a baby. We knew there was tummy that was big, and there's going to be a baby, right? But where do you think did the older kids go when Grandma was going to have a baby at home? You guess, where did we go?
Grandma's house.
Yeah, so even one thing, I you remember that our neighbor had a pickup, and we all had to go on that pickup to Gravash. Because grandparents always babysat us when Mom was going to have a baby. Until we had to be there, until we heard, the baby was born. Yes?
Actually, never really. Actually, Emma and them go home by Belize.
Oh, okay. I thought all of us went to Grandpa's. Oh, I did always go to Grandpa. I thought Nina and them had to babysit us there or something. But anyway, I don't know if Grandma came. Did Grandma come and deliver all of us then as well? He was the midwife for us family. Oh, okay. Klaus's mom was also midwife. So it's kind of interesting how we had to go away. I remember that. Okay. Thank you all for what you did, and you did a great job. I really enjoyed it, and God bless you all. And I love you, aunts and uncles. You are very special, each one of you.
Mentioned. One was regarding the black sheep. According to my observation, having black sheep and white sheep in the family, once you get to know the situation, you realize that the black sheep is actually white and the white sheep is actually black. That is my observation. And regarding that white stone, so we managed to go back into the pasture and look at the white stone. And as we were standing there around the stone, all of a sudden, like a 40-pound piece of rock just dropped within inches of, I think it was Ben Duick's foot. You remember that, Ben? We didn't strike the rock or anything, but just as we were standing there, a rock fell off and fell within inches of one of our feet. So we didn't have these gadgets when we were growing up, but did we lack fun at grandparents' place? If I was there all by myself, it was a bit boring. But what are the things that my generation of children did when we were at grandparents' house? Some of you will remember and some of you will be able to identify with these things. What about the pond? Running around the pond, throwing rocks and dirt and villigurki. Villigurki at these ducks, they would go underwater, and as soon as one would come out, another grandchild or other one of our cousins would throw another object at it until those ducks were just tired out and we could almost catch them. I don't think we ever quite managed to catch them with our hands around that pond. Oh my goodness, did we have fun there. And making fire with Grandpa, we would have to hand him the long sticks and he would push that table and cut off the piece of firewood behind that 35 Massey Ferguson tractor with the big belt going to the saw. But when that pile of wood got high, he would cut the stick until it had exactly the right length. Then he would push the pile over with that stick. You remember that one? Breaking eggs. Is Aunt Margaret here? We'll have to be careful now. I remember that Aunt Margaret and Aunt Esther were not married. Aunt Esther was usually quite a lady. We didn't have quite the same confidence in Aunt Margaret. Because she would give us back if we did something that was not right. It was good for her. Thank you, Aunt Margaret. Breaking eggs. So the older boys decided this time we're going to go into the barn and get some eggs in order to break them. I personally, I don't think I did it, so I think I'm off the hook. Anyway, each guy would take 1 or 2 eggs, and then we went out of the barn just to break them. So they would throw them on the ground. And this one egg was too strong. We couldn't break it. We would throw it on the ground and it just wouldn't break. So I think eventually it was Johnny Duick just threw it away as far as he could. But then we had, behind Andrew Duick's house somewhere, there was a pile of these rotten Friesen hatchery eggs. Yes, so we would go and just break those eggs. That was a lot of fun. We could not understand why our mothers didn't like it, but it was almost beyond our understanding. Our mothers didn't like it when we played with those rotten eggs. So the objective was to find an egg that still had a chick in it. Well, a dead chick, but still had a chick in it. And so we'd just be breaking those eggs. Running around the orange orchard, there was this one tree that had these sour mandarins. You remember that one? So what would we do with these sour mandarins? They're very easy to peel, so we would all pick off an orange, and we would peel it, and we would see if we could eat one shalva without making a face because it was so sour. And we would throw, once we were done eating 1 or 2 shalvas, then we would throw the other oranges away. How wasteful. But that's one of the things we did. And Who remembers that chair when you get into the entrance of grandparents' house? On the right-hand side, there was this chair with the very short legs. I think Grandpa would say it was from Russia, where you had a rough floor where the feet had simply worn down. Can some of the uncles say if that's true? Why were those feet of that chair so short?
Because Dad has such short legs.
Did he cut it off?
Which bench was this?
The chair.
Oh, probably.
No, I don't think it was. I think Grandma bought that chair somewhere. I don't think originally it was there. That's the way I was.
What chair was this?
The one with the short legs, when we go in the entrance of the house on the right-hand side. How's that? The fight beer. Gross. Gross var det från en rösson att det rör flua vill det fight när man vill avsked. And my mom would say, if grandfather wants to give you some change for working for him, some coins, just take it. Because grandpa really likes to give something to his grandchildren. Just take it. Grandma had such good food. I remember us cousins talking about how good grandmother's food was. When she was older, it was a little bit different. We were not so keen on eating from her food because she was not such a good cook anymore. When she was staying at our house, actually I remember that this one day she asked, "Where is my father?" And then my mom would tell her, "Well, your father has died." Oh, that was sad. Then a little while later she would ask, "Where's my husband?" "Well, your husband has died." I don't know if there was another person that she would ask about. This person has died. And then sometime later my mom would ask, "Why are you so sad?" Grandmother couldn't understand. Three of the best men in her life had died today, and we would ask her, "Why are you sad?" That didn't make. That's what happened when Grandma was older. But in her younger years, wow, we had such a wonderful grandma. I think my time is almost up. Licking salt by the corral, that was a lot of fun. And pulling up vines from that cahoon tree by the cow barn. Just a few of the memories that I remember from grandparents' place. Did we ever have so much fun with the cousins at grandparents' place?
We'll pass the collection box around for Women's Medical, and afterwards it will be sitting at the souvenir booth for people who want to drop in something later on.
Yeah, I guess I don't have so much memory than a lot of you have, sounds like, from grandparents, but yeah, I have enjoyed working with Margaret together. Margaret, you remember your house was black from having the wooden stove in the house?
Yeah.
And you remember what we cleaned it with?
Bleach.
Yeah, I helped her clean the house with bleach. Yeah, and yeah, Grandpa was an interesting grandpa. I enjoyed him, having rides with him in his car. And I'll probably try to say from everything a little bit. Uncle Aaron, you remember that the first trip me and Larry made to Canada, we came in the middle of the night, we came to your house and you accepted us into your house? We flew to Canada, and when we got to the airport in Canada, we found out that this other couple was flying with us. They had arranged somebody to pick them up at the airport, and we hadn't even been thinking of it. So what are we going to do? So we got a cab, somebody, and then I knew more or less your street. So I said your address, and he took us to your house, and you took us in. But I think Tony Ann was kind of telling us we should better tell us ahead of time that we were coming. But that's what happened. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, it was our first time to Canada. And yeah, my dad, he was always, when we were teenagers, concerned for our salvation. He was really caring for us in that way. Sometimes in evening we would hear Mom and Dad sing, and I hated it. I knew they were singing just because they wanted us to change, our life would be changed, but they were really good parents. And Uncle John, when I was thinking of Uncle John, I was kind of thinking what Tina was sharing, that he would express himself as being a sinful person. At times he felt like, you know, a failure. But he would mention the name of Jesus, that he was not ashamed to do that I remember also. And we bought some stuff from him when he brought stuff down from the U.S. And then next is what? Uncle Peter? Uncle Abe? I'm enjoying working at your house when you had the 2 little girls, adopted little girls. I probably remember more of Tante Lisa things about washing the diapers. She had made homemade soap and she thought it was so good. And the girls got rashes, and then at one point she had to buy soap, and they didn't have rash anymore. She thought the soap that she made was better, but then it kind of looked like it was better to buy soap. But yeah, Uncle Abe has been a special uncle, really good. And Uncle Peter, some of them I can't really say, but I remember you too, hardworking. And then we have Uncle Tony, Tante Batty maybe. Tante Batty, yeah. She was always very special, always enjoyed to go to their house, play with John and Ben and all the rest. I remember, I think I was 11 years old when she first asked me to come work. Somebody would work for her, so I was really sick, but I had to go work, so I worked for her that day. 11 years or something, or maybe even younger. And Tante Nida, I enjoyed her a lot too. Maybe in the older, got to know her more in the older years too. And also, I have also been working there, probably worked almost at everybody. And Mary, Tante Marietje, close to Tante Marietje had veel geschaft, Isaiah Schein. En die oude leidersheid geschaft had. Ik weet nog de oude, die ligt dan met van Jezus te reden, ik weet niet wat ik niet. It is on a slave day, the left nush on that day, but he had a heart. He wanted also caring, he was very caring that way. And then we have Tante Astrid, Uncle Anders, Tante Astrid had veel geschaft. En Blue Creek gelaat. En ik weet dan, die deden dan manchmal, zat je bij mij, deden niet wanted te knubbelen. Lucy. Die mom was in the down the arms, ik dacht you think it shine. But I remember it, I thought your mom would never raise her voice. She would, I thought, mean. She should raise her voice, it almost made me mad. Like she would, if you were naughty, she would always have straight way. She would just talk one way. Oh, I didn't tell the lineup. She liked to keep her floor very pretty. First when we got married, we lived in that house that she had varnished. Yeah, I've enjoyed very much at her house too. You would sometimes have come to our house, we'd have to babysit you. That was something a little bit hard, but... Oh, you did? That was the house Uncle John built. But one time you came to our house and then, I don't know if I didn't trust you. You walked home, and then I ran after, and she picked a big mango up her tree, and we had been waiting for the mango. Oh, we were so upset about picking that mango. But anyway, and you have not mentioned yet. Well, we worked together, and we really enjoyed working with you together. I also worked for you when you were first married, living there in that big house behind West Trip. Yeah. And did I mention, Uncle Tony I didn't mention. I probably told you already that when Uncle Alvin and Tante Marietje, when they got married, I remember him standing on the back porch there at this long table where you had a bowl to wash your hands. He was washing himself. I wonder if he came from milking a cow or something. But anyway, and I asked him, how come Uncle Alvin got married? Is he older than you? And he looked at me and smiled and said, no, that I remember so clear. I was asking Uncle Tony why. And that's in the later years. One time he came with the tractor on our yard. He said, where do you have electric fence? And he really desperately wanted electric fence because he had gotten stung by bees. So, yeah. Yeah, but it did kill the nose.
Well, I'm really grateful that I'm here. I wasn't going to, didn't look like I was going to be able to come, and look, here I am. Thank you, Carol, for your help with that. I was trying to think if I have specific memories of each of my uncle and aunts, and I don't have specific memories of each one, but I have specific memories, well, that wouldn't be specific, would it? Of always feeling loved at each of my uncle and aunt's homes. I always loved going to my uncle and aunt's homes. And you've all made such an impression on me, and it has made me want to be a better aunt. Sorry. My specific memory of my grandfather, they were staying in Blue Creek, and he wanted me to go buy bread from the neighbors. He gave me some money, and he said, whatever is left over, you can keep. So I think that's been mentioned a few times. And of Grandma, my most specific memory is she was staying with us in Belmont Pond, and we were cleaning up after having supper, and she was in a very good mood, and she was teaching me how to count in Russian. And for some reason right now I can't remember, but I have always remembered that. So, Mom, how does it go? Raz, dva. Anyway, I guess I must be a little bit nervous, but that's something that I remember. We laughed a lot. As far as specific memories of Uncle and Aunts go, I loved going to Uncle Abe and Aunt Lisbeth's because Uncle Abe made the best breakfast. He would do this thing with cornflakes in a cast iron pan with honey, I think. And it was something that I always remember. Uncle Menno, the memory isn't that vivid, but I know he threatened to hold me upside down in a creek of water. I was probably whining.
Did it work?
I don't know, you have to ask my parents. I'm sure you remember this. I think we were going somewhere.
Going to Guatemala.
Oh, okay. I don't know how old I was, but I wasn't very old. I must have been maybe 3. So obviously that made an impression. And maybe that's why I hate whining so much now. Anyway, I loved Uncle Menno, and I can remember going to visit them in Valley of Peace. And Uncle Aaron, he taught me how to ski. I always have appreciated how much time he has for family. And he makes us all feel so loved. He taught me how to ski. He taught me how to compose pictures so that they have depth. So I often get complimented on my pictures, and I'm not a photographer, but Uncle Aaron, you taught me how to take better pictures. But mostly, I just want you to take away from this that I love you all. I'm very happy that I was able to come. And thank you for always welcoming me into each of your homes and always making me feel loved. And as far as family gatherings go, they were always so much fun. Hanging out with all the cousins, it was always so special. And one last thing, I remember a gathering at Uncle Alvin's place, and us cousins were sitting outside in the grass, and we were playing a game that we loved to play, and that was who could find whatever verse in the Bible first. How interesting when I think of that now. We just love doing that. Anyway, thank you all.
I kind of feel like Margaret almost took the words out of my mouth, because one of the things I wanted to say is that I love my uncles and aunts. I love each one of you. And I had the privilege of coming to Aunt Maita's funeral, and I was already at that point observing most of my uncles and aunts. They're getting a little older. And I wanted the opportunity to tell each one of them, I love you. And you have laid a foundation for us. You have paved a path for us that we need to walk on.
Actually, now that you know y'all are getting a little older, some of you have passed on, some of you are still with us. I've had a very, very sobering thought the last few months that we cousins, we are the next generation. How does that feel? We are next up in line. I feel like the uncles and aunts have poured out their hearts. They have prayed for us. They have loved us. They have been faithful to follow the Lord, to love the Lord. And now, you know, I don't know if you want to know what a relay race is, where people run a certain stretch and then they pass it on to someone else. I feel like the uncles and aunts, our grandparents, fought for us on their knees. And I just want to thank you. I want to thank you, each one of you. And I love each one of you. And I wasn't sure I was going to come here because I had come to Anita's funeral. But when I heard who all was coming, I said, I have to be there. I don't live close by. I don't know when I will see you again. So I'm here to see you and thank you, face to face, that I love you. Thank you for everything you have done for us.
Ja, så veel gezegd worden is dat we voor een grafrechen en speelden. Wij kan behouden in grafrechen 35 voor. Ieder maand heeft een 35 voor en ik ben ziemlich jong. En wer te wem heeft grootmama gezegd, dat kost plus een 4 of 5 voor. Wie plus 8? Ik zal niet te boos zijn, maar een dag voor ik door mijn hoofd kwam hingen en ik geloof ik had ik behouden, ik moest hem zasten en dan had ik niet aan gedacht aan Osbo weer en dan drukte de maffer op. Dat je mij zei als hij slag. Maar dat is dus een ervaring waar ik behouden heb van als ik jonger was.
Just wanted to share a few memories of a few uncles of being a teen, when I was a teenager, and they put me in my place. Ik ben de grouch, en Abe zei dat ik geloof ik wist alles, maar ik weet niet of man waar ik niet alles wist. But my uncles did a good job of showing me dat ik niet alles wist. So een dag deed Uncle Elvin nam me aan te met omhoven en huis moven, en dat kwam om te regenen. So hij wilde het huis zeer hier moven, verder met touwblokjes aan. So that they did the huis move from Spanish Lookout, Noble Creek, there's een Bush. En ik zo vaak en wie wist ik dat nu is dat is nu dat eng, nu is dat mijn sterke gebleven. Maar we allemaal met de chair en de jacks en de chainsaws en de spodems en de beams, dat we allemaal nog waren aan bach. Het huis wie een klein beetje verknutscht het dak en aan de kant was weer sterk een Bush sterk weer. Maar dat zei Uncle Elvin, dat we niet lang weer fixen. En dan Uncle Peter, hij deed mijn amtop, wie deed mijn amtop met vijshoven. We hadden een tier gegrepen en dat wordt niks. En dan hebben we hem schmijt de tier zich door. En ik dacht zo, en ik dat tier niet kan opstaan en maken aan Tonchina. En dan jump Uncle Peter van dat tienpier erop. En dan wilden we dat tier op de fight. En Uncle Tony, we waren in Lake, we waren met de latest cousins toe. En something wilden we van een van die huwe bijen, ik weet niet wat het weer, maar we felt something, vielleicht een strang van te brengen van de chocolate of something. En dan zei Uncle Tony, wij zijn bij het eerste bij Boba's. En ik weer ganz klar, dat competition, dat wil ik for sure gewinnen. So, schoven ons vonden te lekker aan op te klippen. En ik weer tweede bij Boba. Uncle Tony weer eerste.
It's been an interesting event. For me, it's the first Loewen's reunion ever. I'm very thankful. Feelings and but God is good. A few things I wanted to point out. I think it's important to give people the roses while they live, rather than just putting them on the grave. I feel like I'm from the younger generation that hardly remembers anything about Grandma and Grandpa, I have few very faint memories. Uncle Doof, ik vond dat je me niet had de interesse voor steentjes weer op je waai. En dat van deze dag dat me dat immer zoveel ik zie dicht aan God wanneer ik steentjes zei. Uncle Abe, die wilde wat het eerste mee leren loader voor. En dat is eigenlijk zei. Ik hoop ik kan nog maar. Uncle Alvin, die leerde me pool mijn handen. That was a good summer in Calgary. And right now my hand is going blank. Might come again yet. Wie denkt best je van andere stukken hoe je dan waren? Blue Creek? That was only sad memories. Because I wasn't home. I woke up in the morning. What down the hind there? Because I'm hind out. Who's he gonna? You had a chicken barn, right? Layers? Van Uncle Alvin naar heen denk wie perseverance. Die helpt je dus Emma laag. En nee, helemaal schoft het. Dat eenmaal wat je deed, die diesel pumpt en kleine spullen aan schuiven en schilder nog around het diesel schilder dus een motor aan. Meestal maar, je weet niet schoft het, maar niet ons Emma. Yeah, it's. Ik kon dat wat mijn dad zei wanneer hij hier. En ik werk voor mijn dad. Dus hij heeft een hele haar. Ik kom dus direct aan en zei, ik heb niemand stroefje krijgen van mijn dad wanneer hij daar weer. En wanneer ik mijn dad aan denken doe, en mijn onkels en tantes, dan wens ik dus, ik kan daar zijn als ze zijn. Because I see us so unbeschleppen, so I've got so many rough edges. I really desire to give more to my children. I think van Uncle John, I have a lot of memories from Jaguar Paw area, was daar woonde. Kan ik een dag een boek lezen. En dat boek ga ik vandaag aan een boek van een hond. Lord bless you.
Okay, ik heb een hele naam van Grotras. Wij zijn de oude Testimonies. En dan bij mijn broer Henry gebeuren weer. Dat we groot hebben groot wie ons op een half. Dan vertel we groot hebben dat we zijn ons op een half weer. En ik zou anyway dan groot krijgen nog een Grotras voor wat holen. So, groot in een tractor naar huis. En dan vul ik mijn bijschool en dan hol ik grootpapa voorbij naar de bijschool. Dan weet ik dat grootmama is huis en dan kan ik grootmama vertalen en broer Henry houden. Dan moet grootpapa status weer nerken niet met de ik blijf al nerken en toen met dat ik hoor grootmama dat vertelde ik. Dus ik ga het overal als je mijn broer. So, dat is eigenlijk wat ik heb.
Ein ding van mijn schweerouder. Als ik doorgaan voor vrouwen, als ik wil gaan met norma bevrienden, dan zegt mijn schweerouder dat hij wordt dat met Sarah bereden en zei dat allemaal alles morgens taub heina vader je. En dat was ik nog schon van te reden. Ik weet het eerst bij ons en mijn mam daar heeft niemand zijn taub bedrijf wat dan. En dan zei hij dat wil ze vielleicht waren sie wieder keiner Vater, was meinst du davon reden? Und ein anderes Ding von Uncle John, hey, wie mal wie Caribbean Tire, weil das something betonen und kriegen $80 und stehen 20 Jahre für ein Fachjahr, dann sagt er mal, ein Jahr sieht blind und ein anderer könnte nicht sein. So.
I shared a few memories about Grandpa, especially the other day. But I wanted to take the opportunity to some of my, or to all of my uncles, I think, and I don't remember who was all involved in this project, but as you all, maybe some of you know, is when we were in Costa Rica, things went quite downhill financially for our parents, and we had a hard time, and my mom didn't always know what she was going to put on the table. Very emotional here. So John and me spent a bit of time, John did a lot more than I did, working for uncles, and they paid us so we could pay debt. That was good. But we often know what Nethran is, but we had one day, the uncles arranged a log frame. Does somebody remember that? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so there was a logging day for my parents. Thank you. There's a lot of blessings that I see that you reap from those type of things. Thank you.
This has been a really incredible weekend. I feel very fortunate that my dad and I were able to make it. My mom didn't come, but the genealogy book that she started, and she appreciated this family so much, which I think would speak to all the in-laws and the stepchildren, how much everyone is included. It doesn't matter what country you're from or where you go, you will be welcomed. And I am pretty impressed that we got over 205 signatures in that book today. So she will really love that. And she will look at each name and she will know who you are. So thank you for your kindness and your generosity. The planning of this has been absolutely incredible. The opportunities that have been staged and carefully thought out for many months with so much difficulty in between is astounding and really speaks to the character and compassion and care that this family takes. I just have one funny memory that I just can't sort of shake. There were many memories about Grandpa, but when we went to Grandma and Grandpa's, there was always a family swing. And I don't know if we ever did a head count, but you wouldn't believe how many people could actually fit on a family swing, because you could stack them on the top too. And when we moved into our new house on Larchdale, where many of you have stayed, we got the swing that used to be on John Loewen's yard. It was the most comfortable swing in the world because it had curves. And my dad put that swing up, and the ingenuity of these Loewens is always something to behold, because nobody wanted a swing that stuck out. So he and Grandpa took beams and put them all the way through the garage so that they could suspend this swing so that it would never bump. And we had a lot of fun on that swing, and I think it just speaks to togetherness and that life has its ebbs and flows, and regardless of where we find ourselves, we are part of a tribe that may not always think alike, but I think in our hearts we really do feel similar feelings. And thank you again for the planning that went into this, because this is an amazing space, and you've done so much with it.
Yes, ik zie van de Rijmers, bij alle weten. En wat mij zeer special is, je wordt er dus je wordt, dat ik krijg zo een paar over immer Hans, mijn dad, we meest naar thuis. Ik weet niet of je dat denkt, mijn dad meest allemaal. Some is op mission. Some is uithelpen. Some is hoe kan je was eat baby, whatever. Ik geloof ik ben niet helemaal all the way positive met dat. Het paar mensen maar waar weer. een ander ding wat ik wil aan je dacht heb, als ik jong werd dan kreeg ik van de ziet je vader, dat dit is niet mijn recht dat. En dan dat 6 jaar van reden. Ja, en de rechte dat had, dan würden wir gerne am Tag, dann würden wir selbst hier gehen und wir würden selbst mein Harten Tag schaffen und dann würde ich besser schaffen, wenn wir dort selbst Nature haben. Und dann hätte ich dort einmal von einem Jungen, was nach seinem Dad hat, kriegt so Complaints. Dann hat er repented. Dann wieder meine Mama und Papa wieder dann in Kanada, mit der jüngeren Schwester alle, gleich wir alle da. Ik weet niet, het is Marieken, 10 jaar. Marieken liefst wat wordt, wenn ich was. 10 jaar vreet zich door aan Hans. En dan schreef ik een brief en ik repented te hebben. Dat ik had hem niet accept als een real dad. En van daar aan, had ik geen andere dad gestart. Dat was mijn real dad. Ik had daar zat en spazieren, we kunnen van onze Fehler reden en dat was dus real. Dat was amazing. En dan heb ik weer gedacht, oké, ja, ik had mijn nature weer naar Rema, maar vielleicht wat je alle zeggen, ik heb mijn nature weer van papa. Ik weet niet. Wens de natuur, je geboren, de nature van born nature, dat weer naar Rema, right? Maar abgewassen zie ik met papa toe, in de nature, nu had ik papa, zo ik heb really van 2 dads nature, ik zie. Ik zei, ik had zeer veel meer ervaring als die anderen wat ik had voor de dad. En ik heb dat gedaan. Ik kon dus, wanneer we dat really betrachten, wat God en dit plan alle hebben, it's amazing. Wanneer we positief zijn en we kijken, no, God, wat was du ons leren, wat was du ons zeggen, wat was du ons doen. We can just incredible. It's incredible what God did in ons leven, want we ons hebben gegeven, it's amazing. En ik dank God van alle onkels en tantes. Ik kan zeggen, ik kan van jeder mens leren. De ganz beste mens kan ik weer leren, ik kan van alle. That's amazing. Wat ik had te zeggen, ik kan van jeder mens weer leren. En ik dank God daarvoor. En ik weet niet wat dat eigenlijk groot wat heb, wat ik van hem geleerd heb, wat hij mij geteacht heeft. En daar kan niemand nu gaan hoe God ons dat alle derg geleerd heeft.
Je vragen naar de noemen zei. En dan John A. Peter bij de net dat hij omringd lijnen Astermark.
Okay, a little joke here that my dad even would like to listen, but I trust he's listening. And this joke is on John and Ben. I was a little boy, but you can see I have a big head, so I do remember lots of stuff. And John always had a little problem with his younger brother Ben, because Ben could drive Uncle Abe's tractor, the 76 Ford, and John would drive my dad's Ola Hunan Filisastic that had beef steering. And the Ford was quite a bit faster. And this is a story that John later told me, because Ben would have never talked about it. So John always had a problem. Ben would beat him going home after plowing at Hingalahu. But John was pretty smart too. So one day he's challenging Ben to check if Ben could run faster than the Hunafield Sastic could drive. And I got to hear it the way Ben didn't get the catch. He just thought John wanted to see how fast Ben could run and kind of explain how slow my dad's tractor could drive. So sure enough, Ben parks the Ford and then they take off. And the whole trick was then John would keep driving and Ben had to go back to his tractor, pick it up, and that evening John beat Ben to my dad's yard.
Yeah, another thing what I just was thinking, I sometimes wonder really that my dad, he had a heart of mission, and it seems like it's quite a bit in our family too, and that mission mind, and how God has brought us to so far. I mean, even now we have a daughter in Indonesia, down there, could say, other side of the world. And I would like to ask you to really pray for her, because she has a tough time there among these Muslims, and it's tempting. So there's a lot of stuff we really need to pray. And she had a desire to be a light and salt there. So may God, that's what I would ask to pray for.
Okay, I'll free my hands here so I can do 2 languages at a time. Yeah, just down so I can. Okay, I thought I'd just share some memories of uncles and aunts. I really cherish all of them. And I remember Uncle Aaron. So many times that either he was here in Belize or we were there in Manitoba visiting, and always so warm, so welcoming, and always really excited to eat Uncle Aaron's food that he was cooking. I always remember that Uncle Aaron cooking food, and we were really blessed the time we had in Manitoba. That was in 2016. We were at your house, and you spent time with me and my wife together. You cooked us a nice meal, and then we went to visit Aunt Anne together. I'll never forget that time. I really cherish that opportunity to visit. And another thing I remember of Uncle Aaron is going to Steinbach Mennonite Museum together. That was way back in 2010. 2010, I was in Canada, and then we together, just me and Uncle Aaron, went to Steinbach Mennonite Museum. They had some kind of gathering there. Just a memory I cherish. And the other memory of Uncle Mano, I'm not doing it in my row. Uncle Mano. I just remember so clearly going to Uncle Mano and Aunt Mary's house. The memory that is just so clear. Always excited when FASPA was over, or even before FASPA. Before FASPA, and when FASPA was over, where did we go? Us young cousins, down in the basement. Books, and story time. I was always excited to have Uncle Mano, his glasses on his nose, looking over them and sharing these history stories. And one thing I remember very clearly, Uncle Mano sharing a video documentary of the construction of Prince Edward Island Bridge. And he was so proud of one of his nephews being involved, which is Eric Loewen, involved in building that bridge. Just some memories that are still very clear. At Uncle Peter's house, that was always fun. There was two, well, of course the cattle, the corral. We always had fun playing at the corral as young cousins. We'd try walking on top of the corral, the boards. I remember your plumibum. We'd always go climb the plumibum and eat plums. Your orchard. And also playing on the yard, playing catch. There was something about Uncle Peter's and Aunt Sarah's place. It was just always intriguing to play. There was a big space to play with the cousins together. And Uncle Abe's place, there was something about your concrete concrete pad, your concrete that you have around your house, we would have played and played and played endlessly on it. We played home free, we'd play hide and seek in the evenings, and Uncle Abe showing us his stones, his polished, beautiful stones. It's something as young cousins, I just remember that so clearly. And of course, going to the turkey barn, and it was just such a vast barn that it always intriguing to go and watch the turkeys, and of course that humongous 500 feet tall swing. That's what it felt to us as young cousins. It was, for me, I remember it was terribly scary. I was a young boy. To swing down that swing, that was something to remember. And of course also Uncle Abe loved to tell stories as well. I remember that very clearly. And Uncle Edward split your house. That was of course, one thing I remember very clearly is there was something unique about your upstairs, and we always go up to the lookout in your white house. There was something special. We cousins always climbed up there. And the other thing was your squash that you had, your, what do you call it, koti. Really, really vicious animal. And with going back to the woods there with cousins together. And Uncle Alvin's, they were always neighbors, and what we always did was play home free. When you go to your house, home free. When your children, when the cousins would come to our house, home free. There's many things, but I thought I'd just share some of the memories, cherishable memories I have of the places, going to uncles and aunts. I'm sure there's more, but another specialty is Uncle Anton and Aunt Margaret's house in Manitoba. Always being welcome, a place we could sleep when we were there, place to visit, just home. And of course, Lloyd and Randy, why not? It was no better thing than to go and spend time with Lloyd and Randy. Yeah, I could go on, but I thought I would share just some, and especially some of the uncles and aunts, the love for Christ, the love for the Word of God, and the time to encourage, share about the Bible, about Jesus, pointing to the real thing that matters for eternity. And thank you, Uncle Alvin, especially. I really cherish your time that you have spent to encourage me. It has been a tremendous blessing. There's been some others. Of course, my dad. Here I am. Thank you, all uncles and aunts, and all the cousins. Here we are, proud to be a Loewen.
Okay, all right, we will probably finish it here. I really want to say thank you to everybody that shared something, and I would agree with what some of them said was we really do love all our uncles and aunts. They are very dear to us. They have left a great impression and a great impact, even in our everyday decisions that we're making in their lives today. So we really say thank you for that. And I'll just close this with just one or two sentences. One from Aunt Nita. Just a memory from her is, she told us boys we could go to the river once we were 12 years old if we would be good boys. Uncle Tony, the last time I met Uncle Tony in Belize, I walked, that's about 3 years ago. and I'll never forget because I loved his one-liners. I walked into the room and he looked at me and he says, "John, this morning when I got up, I had to walk twice to make a shadow." And what he meant to tell me was that he had lost some weight. And I said, "Uncle Tony, that's not bad. When I got up this morning, I had to walk a while before you could see the sun." And he just laughed and laughed. And I will never forget his last laugh. All right, thank you all. And Auntie Lina wants to say something. Great.
Ja, ik had het wat interessant, wat wonderful te zeggen. We hadden ik had de camaraderie zelf heel zijn purple water lilies. En dan deden de surfen dat je met goed biedt urban surf. Dat deden we surfen nemen, dat bijvoorbeeld dit is hier dan een planten. En dan wieder bestellen en dan schwangen ze beslagen. There is a great legacy from urban here by this lake. When you go across that bridge there, that is there all full of lilies. That's 7 years ago. And then also that island there is on one side also all full of the same lilies that we tried to plant in just went to the stream. They're now on the other side of the lake. Yeah, I wanted it. Yeah, we're still greatly missing him. We have, but he's not with us anymore, and we believe also he is with the Lord.
Thank you for sharing that. And where is Abe? Or who's here? There he is. I'll hand it over to you.
Well, thank you everyone that made this pleasant and pitched in to help. Yes, we have reached the kind of the formal part of goodbye, and you can all do your personal ones thereafter, no problem, and you will. So we have a couple of announcements for the meeting places for the day trips. We consider our yard to be a convenient location, so for all 3 days you can come to our yard to gather and go on to the day's trip. Monday, please meet at 12. Earlier we said 12:30, but we would now like to ask you to be there at 12 to have a little earlier start. And then Tuesday at 8:45 so as to be able to leave at 9. And the Tuesday one, if there are some people that can't make it that early and you want to drive all the way yourself and you know where we're going at, it would be possible to follow. Wednesday, we'll have to have an earlier one. I didn't get that time.
What's the time on there?
I don't have it remembered. Okay, so we'll have to check the time out there at the booth to get the Wednesday one yet. Okay, we have some leftovers from food, and the eten smakers wel niet alles altijd eten. And wel niet bezwaarschmieden. So we are asking you to please pick up some leftovers and take it with you, so that it doesn't stay here and it gets made use of. At the opening of our reunion, we touched some sad facts about not having all the uncles and aunts here that we started out planning for. And but we are very happy for those that could make it. Uncle Aaron, for a while, thought he wouldn't come here either, but he's here. Thank you. Uncle Abe even had a little time that we didn't know how much he would participate, and you could participate. We were very happy for it. And Aunt Lina, we weren't sure how much she would be able to participate, but she's been here most of the time at least. And my dad has been here most of the time. Uncle Alvin came from Canada. Uncle Peter, at times, we weren't sure how much input he would still do, and he did still give input. Klaus Penners came from Canada. Whom have I still missed? Margaret. Anton and Margaret came from Canada. Andres and Esther. Well, not Fiat, right? All those you can read later, back in Fiat. And Aunt Betty didn't make it. Okay, Ben will say something about that.
Just my mom was in the process of writing a letter that she thought was going to be read here, and she wasn't done. She was very tired. So then I told her, just finish the letter and send it later on. And then she decided, or she said that she would rather that the letter be read to her brothers and sisters, and I guess their husbands and wives. So we probably need to gather somewhere a little bit, and then somebody that reads well and sees well in German could read this letter to them. I don't know what would be appropriate time for that, Abe.
Okay, it sounds like the uncles and aunts are invited to group together after supper to hear that letter. Now after supper, so get a little group together.
I am sure if somebody else wants to read it or listen in on it, that's fine, but we just want to make sure that it's a small circle that the uncles and aunts can hear it, but I do need a volunteer for German.
Okay, I repeat, the photos and video clips are supposed to be online after several days on the Loewen Reunion website. They'll either be there or there's supposed to be a link. And we want to upload it in such a way that you can download your photos. And, but we're paying a monthly fee for the website, so we'll keep that website up 2 or 3 months. So we will send you the notice that now they're up. Then you can download them. You'll have a while to download them. And after a couple months, we'll take it down. So we don't have to continue paying for the website. But we'll send out a reminder, at least one.
Ik feil niet zo van een klein maar zei van Leo Dikke. Why Tante Betty isn't here is because Uncle Leo, he has numerous of strokes, and he is diagnosed with dementia, and we really need to pray for them because they were always they were everywhere. They traveled, they would be here if they could. So that's the reason why Tante Betty, she was thinking maybe she could come, but then no, it was not the time she could go. So that's why she's not here, but she has, I know her heart has been with us. Thank you.
Okay, another note, we were very thankful for all the participation. Like Norma said, we kept looking at that registration sheet. More. We had a good amount here. Very happy for that. Well, I haven't heard the final number. 239 people registered online. And Albert and Leonard and Menno did a lot of work with and Norman Reimer did a lot of work for the logging. And we had Menno join for this morning service. And we had Randy Platt, his wife, and Danelle, and Debbie Reimer, a couple more people. Niles bringing the message. Annie took care of the souvenir booth, which wasn't announced or given credit for. Without all that extra help, I'm not sure if you would see us smiling. But anyway, we are smiling. This was very wonderful.